Okay, so if you were to fly over the city of Hakodate in northern Japan, you'd see this, a massive, perfect five-pointed star just carved right into the landscape. I mean, it looks like a modern park, right? But this peaceful place is hiding a pretty dramatic secret.
So you're looking at this and you gotta be thinking, why a star? It's definitely not just for looks. This incredible design is actually a relic of a global power struggle, a story of cutting-edge military tech clashing with ancient tradition. So let's dive in and uncover the secrets hidden inside this star.
Because, believe it or not, this beautiful park was born from conflict. It was right here, inside these star-shaped walls, that the age of the samurai came to a final, bloody, and really dramatic end. To really understand the star, we've got to rewind the clock to the 1850s. Japan was facing this new, powerful threat from the West, and the country realized it needed a totally new kind of defense. You see, the shogunate's main administrative office in Hakodate was originally up on a mountain overlooking the harbor, and this was a huge problem. Foreign ships could just sit in the harbor and shell it, and their sailors could literally climb the mountain and spy on Japanese officials. Not good. The solution? Move it inland, just beyond the 3-kilometer range of those naval cannons, to a spot that also happened to have plenty of fresh water.
And they didn't just build any old fort, no way. They adopted this cutting-edge European design called a Vauban-style fortress. Now, the genius here is all in the geometry. This star shape was revolutionary because it was designed to completely eliminate blind spots. What that means is there was literally nowhere for an attacker to hide from the defender's gunfire.
And man, this design was absolutely lethal. Instead of stone walls, which would shatter into deadly shrapnel when a cannonball hit, they built these massive earthen mounds, like 5 to 7 meters high, that would just absorb the impact. From the points at the star, defenders could create this devastating crossfire, catching any attacker in what was basically a kill zone. And before you even got to the main walls, you'd first have to get past outer defenses, like this half-moon redoubt, designed to just break up an attack.
So who was the brain behind all this? A scholar named Takeda Ayasaburo. He spent hours poring over Dutch and Western military books to bring this science to Japan. This fortress wasn't just for defense, it was a statement. It was meant to project the shogunate's power and sophistication. And you know, his legacy is so revered that even today, people touch the face of his statue for good luck, polishing it to a bright shine.
But, okay, here is where the story takes a wild turn. Goryokaku was built to defend Japan from foreigners, but its one and only real test in battle would be in a war fought between the Japanese themselves. And that's the incredible irony of its history. Its whole purpose was diplomatic, to deal with foreign powers and defend against them. But its actual use? It became the last stronghold for samurai loyal to the old shogunate, fighting a desperate final stand against the armies of Japan's new Meiji emperor. But get this. When the legendary samurai Hijikata Toshizo and his forces took over Goryokaku, they got a nasty surprise. It wasn't really a military fortress. It was an administrative center. Basically, a giant office building. It was nowhere near as battle-ready as they'd hoped. So they had to scramble. They built these huge earthen ramps just to drag their cannons up onto the walls. They had to turn these pristine government offices into military barracks. In just a matter of weeks, they had to transform this symbol of diplomacy into a functional war machine. For 7 long months, they held out. The Hakodate War raged on, and Goryokaku served as the headquarters and the final bastion of that old samurai regime, until finally it was overwhelmed by the superior firepower of the imperial army. So after the war, the fortress fell silent, but its story, it was far from over. It was about to start a totally new chapter, transforming from a battlefield into the beautiful park that we see today. It's wild to think about, but very little from that time actually survives. Out of more than 20 original buildings, only one is still standing, the old provision storehouse. And there's a single red pine tree. It was brought all the way from Sado Island during construction, and it basically stood there and witnessed the entire conflict. The end of the war also gave birth to one of Goryokaku's most enduring mysteries. The famous samurai Hijikata Toshizo died in the fighting. But the question is, where's his body? Well, a record written after the war gives us this tantalizing clue. It claims he was buried right here, inside the fortress, next to another fallen comrade. An excavation was actually done in the area, but get this, they couldn't bring themselves to dig under a lone pine tree at the spot they suspected, so the legend remains unsolved.
After the war, its history moved really fast. In the 1870s, the army took it over as a training ground, which, ironically, is what helped preserve its unique star shape. Then, thanks to huge public demand, it finally opened as a park in 1914. And in 1952, it got its highest honor, being named a Special National Historic Site.
But Goryokaku isn't just some relic of the past, frozen in time. It's a living, breathing site that presents a whole new set of very modern challenges. Take the Central Magistrate's Office, for example. It was torn down shortly after the war. So when historians wanted to reconstruct it back in the 2000s, they faced this massive challenge. How do you rebuild something that's been gone for over a century with very little to go on?
Well, this is incredible. The entire reconstruction was based on an intense analysis of one single surviving photograph. That's it. Experts literally counted the individual roof tiles and measured the angles of the eaves to try and recreate it as faithfully as possible. But because of modern fire and safety codes, they could only rebuild about a third of the original structure. The rest of its footprint is just outlined there on the ground for you to see. And the challenges just keep coming. The park's famous cherry trees, they were planted way too close together and are now struggling for sunlight. And every single autumn, the entire massive moat system has to be completely drained, just to do repairs on the stone walls. It's a constant balancing act between preserving a priceless historic site and maintaining a really beloved public space.
Which really brings us to the final question. Goryokaku's whole story, from fortress to office to battlefield to park, it forces us to ask what it really means to preserve history. Is it about freezing a moment in time, perfectly preserving the past? Or is it about allowing these incredible places to continue living and changing and evolving right along with us?